Imagine bringing up to 16 8th graders thousands of miles away from home for a whole month without parents. Imagine these 8th graders not speaking the native language there. Imagine all the responsibilities that come with taking care of a kid on your shoulders multiplied by 12. For Mr. Cragtaffel, all of this is a reality. In 2012, Mr. T founded a program called Microcampus where, for 4 weeks at a time, he brings groups of 13 and 14-year-olds from Shanghai American School to a village named Xizhou near Dali in Yunnan Province. The purpose of this trip is personal growth, understanding other cultures, and leaving a positive impact on the places we visit. My name is Nicole, and I was lucky enough to be part of this great learning adventure. I'm part of the 15th Microcampus group, the Oreos, which stands for One Really Excellent Opportunity. On March 5, 2016, 11 other students and I embarked on the most exciting month of our lives. Over the month, we researched a topic of high personal interest. For me, that topic started as a Lonely Planet-style visitor's guide. Why did I choose this? First, I love writing. Writing a travel guide seemed really fun, and wouldn't it be cool if someday my travel guide helped someone have a great vacation? Travel guides also cover a wide range of topics such as cuisine and accommodation. Choosing this topic would allow me to interact with a wide variety of people and explore more of the town. It's almost like getting to have multiple topics. For the first 2 weeks of the trip, we went in the village to make connections and gain information about our topics. As I interacted with locals, I realized tourists have made a big impact on the villagers' lives, but it wasn't always like this. When did tourism start becoming this way, and why did it change? That was when the focus of my inquiry project shifted a little. It was a really confusing time for me because I would set off into the village with no idea what questions to ask. With my project, I hope to give people a new perspective on their impact on the places they visit, or at least something new to think about. I hope viewers might even change the way they affect local communities during vacations. I combined my two topics by considering this thesis. In order to gain the full perspective on what should be included in a visitor's guide about Xizhou, we must explore its past, present, and future. What does this mean? I'm going to take you on a journey through Xizhou's past, from its farming village roots to how its present state is like, to what I think it could become in the future. Basically, what you're about to see is the 3 perfect days in Xizhou through time. You wake up at the crack of dawn in a relative's house to the sound of roosters cawing and the warbling voice of the farmers in the fields. Throwing on a simple Bai-style shift, just like everyone else, you set off to join the workers and experience a day in the life of a local. It seems like it's going to be a sunny day, and the sunrise throws brilliant colors across the sky. You work looking over the miles of crops. Yellow canola flowers sway in the breeze. Being the main crops Xizhou used to produce, you can imagine the miles of yellow rapeseed and canola replacing the new cash crops. You work with the other farmers until noon, when the sun is bright in the sky and sweat beads your forehead. You head to Xizhou, the town square, and on the way, stop and chat with Yang Nainai and Hong Nainai. They are 2 old ladies who love to sit on the sides of the street and simply people watch all day long, which is what many elders liked and like to do in their spare time. Yang Nainai has had a leg problem since she was a little girl, and so she spends a lot of time sitting next to the street, knitting or seeing. In fact, even though most elders in Xizhou have minor health problems, they mostly live to amazing ages, which says a lot about health and living quality in the past. At Xizhou, you buy a cup of noodles at one of the roadside stalls. While you're there, you also check out the Yan family residence, which has been converted into a museum. The architecture here is so unique, with the exquisite details and mahogany furniture. The Yans were one of the 4 main merchant families back in Xizhou's golden days, along with the Dongs, Yangs, and Yings, and it sucks that they got their home taken away from them by the government just 1 year after its completion. You can imagine the house in its full glory 100 years ago. After lunch, you run into Lao Mao, the owner of the first antique shop in Xizhou. He's a friendly elder who loves chatting with anyone and has experienced much throughout his life. He provides you with insight on life back then and declares that Mao was a great ruler, since even though Lao Mao was poor, everyone was poor. Since the farm work for the day is done, you continue by helping with your relative's part-time job of running his family business. Their family is fortunate enough to own 2 cows, which makes it possible to start a Rushan business, a type of luxury that used to only be afforded by the rich. Rushan is kind of like Chinese cheese, and it only requires one material, fresh milk. There are tons of ways to eat it. Roasted, raw, with rose candy jam, another delicacy, fried or rolled. You sit outside on the terrace and watch the stars shine before heading to bed. So basically, what I learned about a local's life in the past is that life was simple, but happiness was simpler too. You wake up in your comfy bed in the second courtyard, light streaming in. It's time to discover Xizhou the way it is today. After heading to the breakfast room, you see the variety of options for the most important meal. After breakfast, you head into the village and run into a kind horse driver by the name of Mr. Young. He offers you a tour of the village and you accept. You ride through the narrow streets, the jangling of the horse cart now familiar to you, and ask about the architecture, which everyone has said is the highlight of Xizhou. Mr. Young explains what is so unique about them. Many of them have panels with artwork on them, some still undestroyed by the Cultural Revolution. Also, houses here have some things in common. The 3-rooms, 1-wall structure is native to the Bai, where 3 sides with 2 stories of rooms and 1 decorative wall form a courtyard. You pass many intricate archways, the paint on them still bright, even though they were from years and years ago. Mr. Young drops you off at Sifengjie, but now you look at it from a different perspective. You notice all the tourists, Chinese and foreign alike. Most of them are wearing brightly colored clothes and decorations in their hair, but you never saw any locals actually wearing them. You also see those Western-style coffee shops that attract so many tourists. There are even some tie-dye tapestries with marijuana leaf designs. You're pretty sure you'd seen something in Los Angeles similar a few decades ago. You look around Sifengjie and settle on a restaurant called Old Town Snacks. As you head toward the restaurant, an elderly lady waves from behind her rushan and snack stand. A younger woman waves you in and you take a seat. This is Mrs. Zhao, and she's one of the most open and kindest people in Xizhou. You settle on Taipei fried rice. After lunch, you decide to do some window shopping in Sifengjie. You enter the clothing shop next to Old Town Snacks and see its owner, a young woman, Su Jiejie. You notice that the clothes here seem to be old-fashioned, but none of the Bai wear them. You wonder why, and she tells you it's more directed at tourists. Continuing on, you run into another shop with Mrs. Li as its owner. She gives you a similar response. Just how many jobs were created because of tourists, you wonder? First, there are all the restaurants that opened that weren't there 5 years ago. Then, there are the multitude of horse cart drivers always asking you to take a ride, and the business-eager tie-dye sellers and clothing shop owners. Xizhou is no longer a tiny town for Bai people. This becomes even more apparent when you glance upon miles of garlic fields which have replaced rapeseed as a cash crop. You notice the plumes of smoke rising in the air and the acrid smell as farmers burn garlic remains. You notice everyone smoking and tossing cigarette butts and drink bottles next to the crops. How is it that modernization has such a negative impact? Basically, life in the present has been greatly affected by tourism. It's boosted the economy and lots of jobs have been created by it. It's also caused the need for environmental awareness and replaced actual culture. Waking up from your room in Hilton Xizhou, you order room service. A waiter rolls in a cart full of steaming Chinese dim sum. After throwing on your silk qipao, you step in the elevator and drop 100 floors where you step out in the sunlight. It's a good day today. You can make out the faint outline of the peak of Kangshan Mountain. You call an Uber and the driver arrives. Today is just a day to explore the town, which can't really be called a town anymore. Xizhou is a big tourist magnet now, just like the Maldives. People come from all over the world to have their weddings here, and it's more of a paper town than one with actual locals. The Bai people are few and spread out, and most have relocated to nearby villages. You look at the new buildings that have been built with a Chinese flair. The old ones were taken down years ago, partly because they were so old that they were starting to become a danger to inhabitants, and partly so Xizhou would look better in a visitor's eyes. The old wooden arch in Sifengjie has also been replaced, and there can be a coffee shop seen on almost every street corner now. Xizhou still retains the winding cobblestone roads it's known for, but the buildings on the side of them are advanced and newer. The familiar jingle of horse carts invades the atmosphere, and you look at the horse cart tour center. Tour groups usually stop there with group bookings to do one of the oldest experiences known to Xizhou, but recently prices have risen to 100 RMB per person per ride. Our high has been completely covered by algae now, lowering the number of people who want to visit it, but other things have replaced it and boosted the tourist value of Xizhou again. Over the past 28 days, I've learned a great deal about myself and my surroundings. I know I'm an introvert and that fact hasn't changed, but this trip has pushed me out of my comfort zone in multiple ways, from interacting with strangers to talking to classmates I'd never talked to before. I know that I can face a challenge, but that I'm not good at time management. This was shown through my inquiry project time and SAS Essentials. If I had the choice to come to Microcampus again, I still wouldn't hesitate. It's been one of the best months of my life, and I'll miss the fresh food and good weather. I realized that interactive learning does more good for me than in the class learning. I learned all of that in addition to the new facts about how tourism can impact a local community, and I'll definitely consider my behavior whenever I go to new places. I hope my video inspires viewers to think about how they affect others while traveling. That was the message of my video, how changing your own behavior can change an entire village's future. I would like to thank Mr. T and Miss Mai for always supporting my ideas and for patiently providing reminders and instructions. They are like my second set of parents here in Xizhou. I'd also like to thank everyone at the Linden Center for putting up with us 12 kids for a whole month and for being like a second family. Finally, I'd like to thank Joe and Jake for bringing us on teacher support sessions day after day and being great people. One day I want to return to Xizhou and bring my family along to see if my predictions were even partially true. I hope not.